Hello. For today's video, I want to do a little bit longer talk about perception and vibration. And I'd like you all to just think about what I'm saying and mull through it a little bit and see what you come up with. Much is said about raising our vibration, moving into a new realm of existence. It sounds so easy. It is as if we will just poof our way into something different than what we are currently experiencing in this lower vibrational setting. That view has been reduced to being something sort of easy, like a fairy tale, a save me kind of idea. The question I have about this is, how can anyone move to a new realm when people are still riddled with emotional blocks and are unaware of the history of our world? How does that work? History has been so jaded and misleading in our understanding. The medical world we know today is not friendly or empowerment to the people, rather a way of profit. I will attempt to give you some thoughts to ponder about exploring new avenues. Becoming an actualized human requires inner standing. Rather, the people of this planet have been conditioned into an unconscious and endangered civilization. Our lives are threatened due to extreme unawareness that most everything we have been told and taught is a lie. We have been conditioned to allow this ideology to influence us for generations. The death cult involves itself in every structure of the world we know. The interspecies predators tie themselves into education, organized religion, medicine, entertainment, law, history, and technology. They vehemently covet total control and obedience to the narrative they present. They deal in fear, propaganda, revised history, toxic medicine, subliminal messages in entertainment, etc. Society has become cemented into cognitive dissonance, seeing that what is told about these organizations in practice is the exact opposite to what their words suggest. The unconscious collective suffers from inverse logic. Inverse logic is when peace prizes are given to warmongers, when the guilty blame the innocent, where good is bad, bad is good, white is black, black is white, truth is lies, and lies are truth. The unconscious collective is out of balance with the Creator. Seeing beauty in self and others, being courteous, considerate, grateful, and kind is the connection and balance with Creator. Most have lost connection through the endless repetitive narrative that aligns and relates to AI as the Creator. The heart of the controllers who lord over the unconscious collective manage to hold this lie in place generationally and incarnationally. Inversion of logic and reason cannot hold the blaze of wisdom. The flame of truth is very fragile. Those who acknowledge there is inverse logic at play see the wicked as a tragic force in the world. Considering the history of the last 2 centuries and before, the pieces of the puzzle come together in a very heartbreaking story of the misuse and disrespect for humanity from the interspecies predator group. Who are these self-appointed rulers that spew propaganda and fear and demand our lives to be at the control of their whims? With knowledge and understanding and a will to be free, all that can be changed. It requires facing many things that have been oppressed, vilified, and twisted into the exact opposite of what it is. How can one begin to move in a different direction? How is that accomplished? Where to begin? How can this happen? First and foremost is recognizing and discerning the perception we adhere to. Perception will always bring about certain behaviors. In societal situation, should the behavior cross the tipping point where the lies are spoken for so long, things become consensus reality. That is the reality of make-believe brought on by propaganda. It is the misguided notion that if a majority believe what they are told, that is the reality, and no other perception brought forward by facts is allowed. Sadly, there are many living in that world. These people will go along with orders demanded by a group of people who are designing total control over them. Any sort of disagreement with that narrative brings punishment to those who do not see 3 fingers as 4. This is a manufactured perception. This manufactured perception comes from emotional blocks and stories that have damaged the psyche to a degree, creating a belief in the propaganda the narrative controllers demand. It is sickening to witness how the punishers break souls and the will of people, yet those traumatized by these demands are unable to discern the situation. We all have our perceptions. The difference being, some develop their perceptions without discerning, questioning, or reasoning. Personal perspectives are how we find our way to the truth, as there can be only one truth, a universal law. We may have a perspective of things where no conflict of another's perspective is challenged, provided the goal of reason is to find an answer of truth. Listening to others' perspectives can bring us to new ways of seeing things that, if pondered and reasoned with, will expand our own focus and inner standing. To accomplish this, it is important to realize the construct of the past. What is the construct of the past that has brought us here? The narrative of history has been revived in a way to align us with the concept that war must be. It shapes a perception that the world must always have war and conflict, not only war of shooting, but a war on health as well. Humanity becomes unable to realize their potential due to this force that has told us what, where, when, and how life is supposed to be. That lead is followed as if we have no logic, reason, or courage to be who we are. Humanity has been traumatized and denied our own identity to reason, to be responsible for ourselves. It is time to replace that with something new. What do I mean? It is examining the concept of the world we live in and begin to alter the areas of behavior that are dictated by the attitude we hold. The old way of doing business has to be radically shifted if we are to move into this higher vibratory state of being. Why do I say that? With a glimpse of thought, it can become remarkably simple. However, I will have to say this process may be uncomfortable for some. The longer we have bought into the structures we are familiar with, the reality that we are told, the stronger the structure of that perception is. Deep inside, we all have a great thirst for a recreated reality, to become excited about becoming active, to change what does not work into what does work for us personally and for humanity. The inventing process cannot bring anything of the old paradigm forward into an actualized new world. We must know our history to take proper steps and not to fall into the trap of trickery. Of course, the first thing to do is begin working on ourselves. This is primary. It is in working on ourselves that we can become creative enough to take out a clean canvas, clearing away narratives the world has taught us, and start learning things that have not been considered before. Knowing that the change begins within our own heart, it is only logical that we consider just what it is we are doing to improve our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual issues. To heal, we take the rubber to the road. The process of growth will impact so much more than we can behold. Let us consider the notion we have about submitting to the medical domination that has been weaponized by fear with the intent to restrict overall health rather than empower and heal. Health was once primarily the responsibility of the individual. What has happened is the people have been discouraged from what it takes to be healthy and given their power over to institutions, be they private for profit or government-run systems where, again, profit is the goal. What am I saying? I am saying that both systems are a terrible failure. Both bleed the people in one form or another. You ask how? I will tell you how. Medical services changed in 1973. Up to that point, it was illegal to make a profit from medical services. The president chairman of Kaiser Permanente asked Nixon for a favor, which resulted in the Health Maintenance Organization Act of 1973, thus allowing medical entities to make a profit. Since then, medical costs have continued to rise, so the profiteers, such as insurance companies and pharmaceutical companies, could make a profit off the medical needs of Americans. Here is something else the law did. To perfectly cement HMO A73 as the profiteering boondoggle that it actually was, the law Nixon mandated also included clauses that encouraged medical providers not to cure afflictions, but prolong them by only treating the symptoms. There's no money to be made in curing sickness. I am sure most Americans do not know this act exists, yet it does, and you have been paying for expensive medications and therapies, never really finding a way out of sickness. The perception of this as being the best medicine in the world is inverse logic brought about by propaganda. It cements one's thinking into cognitive dissonance. This is a situation where there is anxiety that results from simultaneously holding contradictory or otherwise incompatible attitudes or beliefs, or a perception such as a facility profiting off your health yet not making you well, rather administering treatments that cause breakdown in the body rather than building and balancing the body. So, our perception and reality become high medical costs. A one-payer system is no different. Sure, it's structured differently, but the profit is still there for those in high positions. The perception appears to be two different systems. However, how different are they in reality? Consensus reality says it's different. The reality is it's just another scam to take from humanity the ability to flourish. Doctors and medical staff were able to make a decent living providing services within the nonprofit environment for years. Who pays? You. But corporate greed took over that and has done nothing but line the pockets of those who care only for money as they make and nothing for the well-being of the people. I do not think we can go backwards, only forwards to being responsible for our health. Let me break it down so a reorganizing of the thought process can reason this more easily. First, I want to say this has nothing to do with the quality of the person who is in any part of the health world. There are individuals out there who genuinely are for helping you to heal, and there are those who are more interested in profiting through products that may not be what you need, or suggesting various things to keep you coming back. If one's functional, structural, or emotional issues are not improving, one should have pause. However, most are of the perspective that that's just the way it is. The sickness wins, and the human failed in achieving all they could be. One thing that is not in many people's perception is true wholeness, holiness, finding the root cause for this discomfort. The root is usually found deep in the very tissues and blood of our bodies. All modalities that are working for someone should give real changes to discomfort. How can these models be helpful to our well-being? Well, here's the for-profit model. The for-profit model we see today is corrupt. It is managed and owned by a small group of people who do and say whatever it takes to keep profits rolling. You do not matter, profit does. This system is part of the beast system. This system forbids competition, punishes those who do not wish to follow their treatment plans and discredits any natural or simple alternatives. And here is the socialized model. It's a one-payer system where, again, there are no choices. Individual costs may be less, however, there are still profits made via high taxes they mandate for this service. It is a service where there is no choice, no disagreement, no free will can be suggested. It is a structure of total control. Neither of the above serves the patient in any significant way. Both systems are based on debt to the patient, keeping sickness going, and controlling another's choice for what is best for them. Here is a free market-based system. To make real changes to the situation will require the society to have the integrity of a more advanced way of constructing our lives. My vision of the alternative free market-based world is this: no licensing by the state, no restrictions on treatment. In other words, doctors are not held to the Hippocratic oath of cause no harm anymore today. What happens in the situation is the AMA would rather punish someone who is using safe and effective treatments rather than those that cause harm. When people are in a free market, there would be accountability if causing harm. The market would bring that business down. Again, we are cemented in cognitive dissonance. Here's how the licenses work. The government sees people profiting, doing like electrician work, plumbing work, driving, etc. They make a law that these talents and crafts are illegal to do unless you get permission from they, the controllers. So, by our perception that this is true, we spend a lot of money to get permission, and in our minds we think that a license means people are qualified. There are no guarantees other than the state can close you down or fine someone for not obeying their rules. Costs of being in a trade become higher and higher, and there is little way to get out of the contract. A license means you agree to the penal code of rules, you have given up your freedom for a privilege, and are now merchandised to make money for the state. Now, I know that makes many feel very uncomfortable. The perception has been for so long that everything is safe when the government controls it all. However, that perception is not ever going to work out for the human being. If left to the free market, things would look quite different. By removing the licensing, getting permission from the beast, and becoming a vector for revenue, people would learn their skill or craft by apprenticing a while to someone who is experienced in the skill, then be free to share those skills as a means of supporting themselves and their families, without the added burdens of bogus laws that do nothing other than profit the state. Apprenticeship would allow more freedom to work as desired, rather than the indoctrination that this or that must be done to the rules set by the people who do not know the craft or skill. If there are several people to do the work, there would be many choices. The responsibility would be on the individual rather than the system. There would be a healthy competition, prices would be competitive. There would be no racketeering. People would be helping others. It is putting responsibility where it should be in a free society, on the individual. The market would weed out those who do not strive for excellence. The market would take care of itself. If a service is not inside of integrity, the business would not be successful. Free markets would be to prosper, not for greed, but rather for humanitarian reasons. It would be for the individual to make their way in life, offering their talents and living a comfortable, fulfilled life. Some may be afraid to let go of the license. That means only one thing: a vector of revenue and control of our talents. Above and beyond all this, if the focus were to change to clean food, clean water, and clean air, rather than a choice between two highly profited structures, we may be able to pull out of the perception that medical services need to be structured as such. Much of the conditions of disease and discomfort would not exist, for it is the toxins we ingest via the food, water, and air that is breaking down our physical, emotional, and conscious reasoning excellence. Can you see how different perception is? Perception brings on behavior. You go one way or the other. One works for the system, one works for the self. Medicine is best when everyone is responsible for their own well-being. Others are there to help guide. However, the practice of medicine must be one that is simple, inexpensive, and effective. My parting words are, do not allow them to weaponize your health with fear. Fear paralyzes. Find your own power. You hold your own power. We can have a better world when we move from the perception of being taken care of and taking orders to one where we manage ourselves responsibly and care more for each other. Hold on to the hope and faith and rise above the chatter. You are excellent in who you are. You hold the beauty of your individualized ways. Rise above the situation and look like an eagle at the situation below. You will see it is conquerable.